national flag in colors. Once done, find out what the colors of the national flag stand for. So you draw or you do not draw, but please, I hope you know what saffron stands for. Please write that down. The color saffron stands for courage and sacrifice. Courage and sacrifice. White in the center stands for purity, and the color green at the bottom stands for prosperity. 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 Otherwise, I have already said this. I have told the answer in the video. Supposing you're not able to do, you can come back and read the answer, listen to the answer, and then you can write it. Now we read this chapter. It's an interesting chapter because it's in a form of a comic. Okay, with the pictures on it, you'll find it more interesting. Now let us read. Once Swami Vivekananda was at a railway station in Rajasthan. People kept coming to him all day long. They had many questions, mostly religious, and Swamiji was tireless in answering them. So Swami Vivekananda, who was a renowned saint, we all know about him. There's a Vivekanand Rock Memorial in Kanyakumari also, the lowermost southern tip of India. So there you see there's a Vivekanand Memorial also. So Swami Vivekananda once was found sitting on a railway station in Rajasthan. And since the people were aware of him, they came and they visited him, and they had so many questions to ask from him. And he was tirelessly, without getting tired, without getting bored, he was answering to each one of them. Now, 3 days and 3 nights passed the manner in this manner. Swamiji was so engrossed in talking about spiritual matters that he did not even stop to eat. The people who flocked to him also did not think of asking him if he had any food to eat. So now Swamiji sat there and talked to people on spiritual matters, and he was so engrossed, he was so occupied that he didn't notice that 3 days and 3 nights had passed away and he had not eaten anything. People came, people listened to him and went away. Nobody asked him, nobody reminded. They did not bother to check him also. On the third night of his stay there, when all the visitors had left, a poor man came forward and said to him lovingly, Swamiji, I have noticed that for 3 days you have been talking and talking. You have not taken even a drop of water. This has pained me very much. So now, when the third night started, there was a poor man who had been constantly seeing the Swamiji. He came up to him and he said, Sir, I have noticed, Swamiji, you have been working, you've been talking 3 days and 3 nights, and you have not have had a single drop of water also. So this has really pained me a lot. It has worried me a lot, and I was worried for you. Swamiji felt that God had appeared before him in the form of this poor man. He looked at him and said, Will you please give me something to eat? So now, when uh, the villager was talking to him, Swamiji considered him as God had appeared to him. And he said to that poor man, who was in fact a poor villager, but for, for Swamiji, he was the person next to God. He was God himself. So he asked the villager if he could give anything to eat.
Excuse me, ma'am.
The man was him. Yes,
Ma'am, which page number?
get lost. The man was a cobbler by profession, so he said with some hesitation. Swamiji, my heart yearns to give you some rotis, but how can I? I have touched it. If you permit, I will bring you some coarse flour and dal, and you can prepare them as you please. So now, when Swamiji asked that poor old man to give him something to eat, so that man he got very scared because in those times the caste system was so rigid, and he was a cobbler, a shoemaker of a lower caste. So he, in hesitation, in great dismay, he told Swamiji that he was, though he was in his heart wanting to give him the rotis he has, but then he had touched it. So he was not sure that whether Swamiji will have it still. So he asked me, if you want, I can give you the raw flour and a dal, and you can prepare that food on your own. And instead of taking it from my hands, from that poor man's hand. Swamiji smiled at the poor man. No, my child, give me the rotis you have prepared. I shall be happy to eat it. So Swamiji said, no, I will have what you have prepared. The poor man was frightened. He stood with folded hands. The king might punish me if he came to know that I, a low caste person, have prepared food for a sannyasi. What should I do? So now he was thinking that maybe the king might punish him because Swamiji is a sannyasi. He won't think of these things. But then I am of a lower birth, and if I give food to him, I might be punished by the king later. But the eagerness to serve a monk overpowered his fear. He hurriedly went back home, but I cannot leave Swamiji in such a state. And he hurriedly went back home, and he was on his way back home thinking he cannot leave Swamiji in that state. So he finally decided that he would bring something for him. He returned with freshly made rotis for Swamiji. The kindness and unselfish love of his penniless man, of this penniless man, brought tears in Swamiji's eyes. Sire, you cannot partake food from from my hands. No, my child, give me the rotis you have prepared. I shall be happy to eat. So now this old man, he brought the rotis and he was overjoyed. With his heart was filled with kindness and unselfishness, and he was all drenched in love, and he wanted to give uh, uh, rotis to Swamiji, and at the same time, it touched Swamiji generously a lot. It just that he was so extremely poor, yet he was so thoughtful. So when he said, I have made prepared fresh food, and what should I do? Should you take it from my hands?" To this, Swamiji said, yes, he would. Swamiji pondered how many people like him live in the huts of our country unnoticed. They are materially poor and of so-called humble origin, yet they are so noble and large-hearted. So now Swamiji was thinking, ponder means to think. Swamiji started thinking that there are so many poor people in our country, and he lives in a hut. He has hardly anything to himself, yet materially he is poor. That means he doesn't have any sources. Yet he's so rich at heart. He's so humble in his heart, and he's too large-hearted. Whatever little he had, he was ready to share, in spite of his humble origin. That means, in spite of his birth being of a low caste. In the meantime, some gentlemen found that Swamiji was eating food offered by a shoemaker and were annoyed. Now, when the other people around saw that Swamiji was eating food from a lower caste, they started objecting. They came to Swamiji and said, Swamiji, it was improper for you to accept food from this man who is of low birth. So now they are complaining. They said, how can you do this? Why are you taking food from a person of a low birth? Swamiji patiently heard them and then said, you people made me talk without respite for the past 3 days, but you did not even care to inquire if I had taken any food and rest. So now Swamiji said, see, I was giving lectures, I was talking to you all, telling you about various noble things, but you all never thought of giving me food and anything to eat, whereas this man, he did. He continued, you claim you are gentlemen and boast of your high caste. What is more shameful is that you condemn this man for being a low caste. So now Swamiji said, he, you all think that you are of high caste? No, you should be open-hearted. You should be higher in your mind, in your thoughtfulness, in your thinking. Whereas it is really shameful that you considered this poor cobbler as a low caste. It was your low thinking which has resulted in this. So he told this to the other people who had come to object. The gentlemen hung their heads in shame. They realized what they had done. Can you overlook the humanity he has just shown and despised him without feeling ashamed? So now Swami Vivekananda said to the other gentlemen who were surrounding and their heads were in shame, he said, how can you not see his gentleness, humanity he had done, and you are still bounded by the caste system? Are you all not above from this? This is what I had been telling you all since 3 days. You all need to grow up. This is how Swami Vivekananda taught a lesson to the gentleman who tried to discriminate against the poor man. Okay. Now, children, I have a exercise. Complete the summary of the story. Now, please put a tick mark. You will write summary of the story, and this could come as a fill in the blank also. Once Swami Vivekananda was at a railway station in Rajasthan. Railwaystation. People gathered around him and asked him many questions. Questions, questions, comma, mostly religious. Full stop. Swamiji was tireless in answering them. Tireless. He spoke for 3 days and 3 nights. Three. Both the times, write the spelling, not the number. On the third night, and it's third, third night, a poor man came to him and seemed concerned that Swamiji hadn't eaten or had water. Swamiji asked him to get him dash. Please asked him to get him something to eat. Right there, something to eat. Even I am writing because I had not written. 2 o'clock हो गया था, so I just made a PDF quickly and sent it to you. But the poor man was a cobbler, Cobbler, cobbler by profession, and was hesitant to give Swamiji food that he had prepared. That he had prepared. But Swamiji insisted on having food that the poor man has prepared. And while Swamiji was eating the rotis, gentlemen, some gentlemen saw it and they were annoyed. But Swamiji told the men that he could not overlook the dash that the poor man displayed. He could not overlook the humanity. Humanity that the poor man displayed. Exercise B, all the question answers we do next time when we meet. I hope I'm clear till here.
Yes, ma'am.
Now